These are the stories making the headlines at this hour. Ahead of the high-stakes general elections, President Yoon Suk-yeol is speeding up his cabinet shakeup. Finance Minister Chu Kyung-ho is among those to be replaced and will likely run for parliament. Yoon also has a new spokesperson in the latest reshuffle at the top office. In a follow-up to President Yoon's state visit to the UK, the government will launch consultative groups to bolster cooperation on trade, clean energy, technology, and global development. The fighting resumes in Gaza after a ceasefire ended. Israeli forces are now expanding their ground operations against Hamas to every part of Gaza, now targeting the south, shifting from the north. Ahead of the high-stakes general elections, President Yoon Suk-yeol is speeding up his cabinet shakeup. Finance Minister Chu Kyung-ho is among those to be replaced and will likely run for parliament. Yoon also has a new spokesperson in the latest reshuffle at the top office. Kim Do-yeon reports.
The presidential office announced its new spokesperson on Sunday. Kim Soo-kyung, most recently presidential secretary for Unification Affairs, took up the vacancy created by former spokesperson Lee Do-won's promotion to senior secretary for public relations.
I will work hard to accurately deliver state affairs to the people without distortion.
She's not new to the media scene. She started her professional career as a reporter at one of the biggest newspapers in the country, the Hanwha. After 4 years, she went to Stanford University to get a doctorate degree in sociology. She later researched North Korean human rights issues and worked at Korea University, the Ministry of Unification, and Hanshin University.
As someone with a career in journalism and various experiences, we expect her to be an excellent media communication partner.
In the meantime, on Monday, President Yoon officially gave appointment letters to the new Director of Policy Lee Kwon-sup and the 5 senior secretaries that he named last week to signal fresh start for the team. On top of this, as soon as Monday, a round of new minister nominees will be announced. This is due to the upcoming general election next April, which will force those running to quit their current public office jobs by January 11th under the Public Official Election Act. As of now, at least 7 ministers are set to run for parliament, with the biggest name being Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister Chu Kyung-ho, a 2-term lawmaker. The president's former Senior Secretary for Economic Affairs, Choi Sang-mok, is known to be nominated as the replacement. Other vacancies likely to be created include ministers for SMEs, infrastructure, and science. Justice Minister Han Dong-won is also being closely watched by the public as a key man in the Yoon administration and a close confidant to the president. He could make his debut in politics. In addition, Park Jin, the Foreign Affairs Minister, is being watched as well. And with the career politicians running for parliament, the replacements are expected to be comprised of mostly scholars and experts in the fields. The change comes amid a parliamentary review of the 2024 budget, and this could delay some key minister changes, with the legal deadline for the review already passed last Friday. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
In a follow-up to President Yoon's state visit to the UK, the government will launch consultative groups to bolster cooperation on trade, clean energy, technology, and global development. Shin Ha-young reports.
South Korea is seeking to further strengthen its economic ties with the United Kingdom. Measures to follow President Yoon Suk-yeol's visit to the UK last month were discussed during a ministerial meeting on Monday, presided over by Finance Minister Chu Kyung-ho. Chu highlighted that the Downing Street Agreement, which was adopted during last month's state visit, has laid the groundwork for a leap in economic cooperation with the UK.
A total of 45 MOUs were signed in the economic sector, achieving tangible results such as announcing investment pledges, winning contracts, and gaining support from the UK government for the activities of our financial institutions in the London financial market.
As part of the efforts for follow measures, the government decided to mainly focus on 4 areas, including trade and investment, clean energy, science and technology, and development cooperation. In particular, starting in January next year, when discussions on improving the FTA between Seoul and London commence, the government will launch intergovernmental consultative groups. These groups will include financial dialogues and investment cooperation committees. In the clean energy sector, the government will initiate discussions with the UK to allow Korean institutions to participate in new nuclear projects. The two countries will also cooperate in technology areas such as chips, AI, digital tech, and space. Regarding development cooperation, there will be annual policy dialogues between the governments. Regarding the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, Chu mentioned an agreement to promote new investments worth $155 billion in the clean energy sector by 2030, adding that it will put its utmost effort into its swift implementation. The Finance Ministry also revealed plans to support reconstruction projects in war-torn Ukraine. He said short-term plans include contributing $100 million to the Multilateral Development Bank and providing $200 million in humanitarian aid. In the long run, it is planning to support by providing $2 billion through South Korea's Economic Development Cooperation Fund. 신하영, Arirang News.
2 years ago, a labor law went into effect that penalizes employers for serious safety-related accidents. While that is set to expand to small companies, the government and the ruling party are pushing to grant an additional grace period. The amendment is facing strong opposition from labor unions. Shin Se-byuk reports.
Small companies may receive an additional 2-year grace period for a workplace safety law, which penalizes employers for severe industrial accidents, as the deadline approaches for firms with fewer than 50 employees. The decision was made during a consultative meeting of officials from the presidential office, the government, and the ruling People Power Party on Sunday, due to concerns over potential negative effects on small businesses.
Applying the laws indiscriminately could lead to closures of small and medium-sized businesses and subsequent job losses.
The government initially granted a grace period from the Serious Accidents Punishment Act until January 27, 2024, for companies with under 50 employees, acknowledging that about 80% of all serious accidents involve such firms. The act, which came into force in January 2022, imposes a minimum of 1 year in prison or fines up to 1 billion won, roughly $770,000, on business owners with 50 or more employees in cases of fatal on-duty disasters caused by inadequate workplace safety measures. Businesses with fewer than 5 employees remain exempt. To ensure the passage of the amendment by the end of this year, the ruling party stated that it would closely work with the main opposition Democratic Party. Last month, the Democratic Party of Korea took a conditionally supportive stance regarding the discussion on the 2-year grace period. The 3 conditions proposed by Democratic Party included an official apology from the government for the delay, concrete plans and financial support for workplace safety, and a firm commitment from economic organizations to enforce the act for all companies following the 2-year grace period. If passed, some 800,000 companies nationwide will be affected by the amendment. However, the legislative amendment is facing strong opposition from trade unions. The Federation of Korean Trade Unions said the grace period extension would expose workers to dangerous workplace conditions, while the Korean Confederation of Trade Unions is set to hold a rally on Tuesday. Shin Se-byuk, Arirang News.
The fighting resumes in Gaza after a ceasefire ended. Israeli forces are now expanding their ground operations against Hamas to every part of Gaza, targeting the south, shifting from the north. Lee Seung-jae with the latest.
After 3 days of heavy airstrikes and ground offensives, the Israeli military is now pushing its way into southern Gaza. Speaking to soldiers on Sunday, the chief of the Israel Defense Forces, Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi, said the Israeli military fought strongly and thoroughly in the northern Gaza Strip and is now doing the same in southern Gaza. The Israeli military on Sunday issued evacuation orders for several districts of Khan Yunis, urging people to leave immediately. Israel believes that members of the Hamas leadership are hiding in the city, where many civilians have been fleeing to and finding shelter since the early stage of the armed conflict. Meanwhile, the IDF said Sunday that its troops have found more than 800 tunnel shafts in the Gaza Strip since the beginning of the ground offensive in October. It added that around 500 of them have already been destroyed, either by setting off large explosives inside or by sealing them. The military went on to say that many of the shafts were located in civilian areas near or inside educational institutions, kindergartens, mosques, and playgrounds. The Israeli military also launched its 10,000th airstrike since October 7th on Sunday, with bombardment intensifying even more over the weekend after Israel and Hamas failed to reach a deal that would have released more hostages. Israel says more than 400 targets in northern Gaza have been struck since Friday, with Gaza's health ministry stating that at least 700 people have been killed in the renewed bombings, marking one of the highest daily death tolls recorded since the conflict began. As of Sunday, Gaza's health ministry estimates that more than 15,500 Palestinians have been killed since October, many of them women and children. 이승재, Arirang News.
South Korea launched its first indigenous military reconnaissance satellite on Saturday, which is verified to be successfully communicating with the ground. This comes as North Korea has also put its own spy satellite into orbit, with the two sides seemingly getting into a space race amid rising tensions on the Korean peninsula. Kim Jung-sil reports.
3, 2, 1, ignition.
The SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket lifted off from California's Vandenberg Space Force Base on Saturday at 3:19 a.m. Korea Standard Time. It carried South Korea's first military reconnaissance satellite into space. South Korea's defense ministry said the satellite was placed in orbit and succeeded in communicating with a foreign ground station at 4:37 a.m. Korea time. And at 9:47 a.m., the satellite made communication with a South Korean ground station as well. The satellite will pass by the Korean peninsula twice a day and is expected to provide surveillance on North Korea. The defense officials added the South Korean military has secured a, quote, independent space surveillance and reconnaissance capability from the launch. We asked one of the top experts in aerospace engineering here in South Korea how Seoul's satellite is different from Pyongyang's.
We have a very good, improved satellite system, including the Earth observation payload camera system. So we can produce those very high resolution satellite system comparing to North Korean capability.
Defense Ministry officials said the South Korean satellite can identify objects less than 30 centimeters in size from an altitude of 400 to 600 kilometers. This is much better than Pyongyang's spy satellite, which reportedly has a limited resolution range of around 3 meters per pixel. But Professor Zhang warned that a single satellite won't nearly be enough to detect Pyongyang's nuclear threats in real time, which is why the South Korean military plans to launch more by 2025.
Korean military plans to launch 4 additional satellites that are implementing SAR payload system. SAR means SAR, which is representing synthetic aperture radar, okay? That is able to take images in very high resolution without regard to day or night and any weather condition.
Professor Zhang added that South Korea may need to send many more satellites into space to detect Pyongyang's threats, giving us a glimpse of the need to prepare for space diplomacy. Kim Jung-sil, Arirang News.
South Korea's Hanwha Aerospace has signed a $2.6 billion deal to supply K9 howitzers to Poland. According to a statement by the company on Monday, 152 K9 howitzers will be exported to Poland's State Armament Agency by 2027 as part of an agreement made last July to supply 672 K9 howitzers and 288 multiple rocket launch systems. 212 howitzers were shipped last year. Hanwha will also be supplying Poland with 155mm self-propelled artillery and logistics support for maintenance and operations. South Korean tech giant LG Electronics has topped the best large-capacity washing machines rankings in all 3 Consumer Reports categories for this year. The 3 categories ranked by the U.S. product testing site were front loader, top loader, and agitator top loading washers, which are used by over 90% of U.S. consumers. In two of the categories, LG were also named Consumer Reports Green Choice based on hands-on tests to select the best environmentally friendly products of 2023. Meanwhile, washers made by Samsung Electronics ranked second and third in the agitator washers segment rankings. Last Monday, November 27th, marked exactly 20 years since Pororo, the main character from the hit Korean animation Pororo, the Little Penguin, first aired on TV. Experts are saying that this penguin character has paved the way for Korean animation on the global stage, Song Yoo-jin reports.
It's been 20 years since Pororo, the little penguin, started his adventure with his friends Eddie the fox, Lupi the beaver, Pobi the polar bear, and Kurong the dinosaur. It all started with Pororo's father, the creator Choi Jong-il, who had a vision of making an animation for toddlers.
As Korea entered the animation scene a bit later, I believe that focusing on content for toddlers would be a way to compete with the powerhouse, that is Japan. Choosing animals over humans as the main characters helps sidestep potential cultural barriers when targeting the international market. We specifically went with penguins, an animal loved by children, yet not extensively showcased in animations.
Choi's strategy turned out to be successful. The animation was exported to France the same year it was released, hitting a 47% viewer rating on the French channel TF1. So far, it's been exported to over 180 countries. However, these numbers are not all that Pororo has achieved. It opened a new chapter for Korean animations. Before Pororo, Korean animators were primarily subcontracted by production companies in the US and Japan. But Pororo was made entirely by Korean animators, from character development and plot creation.
In the content industry, one mega hit is crucial for a country to become globally competitive. That was Pororo. Its success comes from tapping into the niche market of toddlers, which was traditionally viewed as less lucrative even in animation powerhouses like the United States and Japan.
After Pororo came Korean originals like Ping Fong's Baby Shark, Laba, Kokomong, and Tayo, the Little Bus, thanks to increased investment. Their global success transformed Korea's animation landscape from a subcontractor to exporter. Despite these strides, the Korean animation market remains largely unexplored due to a heavy focus on marketable kids' content.
Korea could shift its focus to webtoons, as successful cases of turning webtoons into animations in the past will make it easier to attract investment. The combination of a well-loved webtoon and Korea's advanced animation technology means there's a potential to start a fresh wave of success.
This could elevate Korean animations to being a major cultural export item like K-pop and K-dramas. Song Yoo-jin, Arirang News.
Let's take a look at what's going on in the world now. In the Philippines, at least 4 people have been killed and dozens injured in an explosion at a Catholic mass in the country's southern city of Marawi on Sunday morning. Islamic State militants have claimed responsibility for the attack. The bombing took place in the gymnasium of Mindanao State University, where the service was taking place. Authorities say the attack could be a response by the Dawla Islamiyah Maute group following a series of military operations against them by the Filipino military, including action which killed the group's leader on the same day. In 2017, Islamic State-linked Maute seized the city of Marawi, which has the largest Muslim population in the Philippines. What followed was a 5-month battle in which some 1,000 people, including civilians, died. On Saturday night in Paris, France, a man was killed and 2 others were injured in a knife and hammer attack on a street close to the Eiffel Tower. The suspect, a 26-year-old French man, was arrested later the same night. And on Sunday, an anti-terrorism prosecutor said that the suspect was found to have pledged allegiance to the Islamic State. Named as Armand R. and of being of Iranian descent in the French media, the suspect had previously posted a video expressing his support for the jihadist group. He had also served a 4-year prison sentence for planning an attack before being released in 2020. The victim who died was a German tourist, while a French and British national received non-life-threatening injuries. Alaska Airlines announced on Sunday that it would acquire Hawaiian Air for $1.9 billion. Alaska Air Group is set to pay $18 per share in cash in an acquisition deal for Hawaiian Holdings, the parent company of Hawaiian Airlines. The deal includes Hawaiian Airlines debt. Both companies agreed on the deal by Sunday. However, it still needs approval of the U.S. regulators as well as the shareholders of Hawaiian Holdings. Hawaiian Air has struggled recently due to the Maui wildfires as well as jet engine recall issues. The deal is expected to close in 12 to 18 months, but it could still face a potential challenge by U.S. antitrust enforcers, which have recently taken JetBlue's acquisition of Spirit Airlines to court. Germany's second busiest airport, Munich International Airport, suffered major disruptions over the weekend due to heavy snowfall, but has resumed its operations from 6 a.m. local time on Sunday. Southern Germany has been hit with heavy snowfall from Friday through to Saturday, affecting a total of 760 flights until Sunday morning, as well as rail traffic in the region. More than 40 centimeters of snow fell, unexpected for the early winter season in the state of Bavaria. While limited flights have resumed, Munich's main railway station remained closed on Sunday morning, along with the majority of the city's public transport. Kim Siang, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. We can expect much more bearable afternoon temperatures, and it will be even warmer for the rest of the week. But stay warm. Many are coming down with cold, and it's always better to dress a bit warmer than to be shivering in the freezing temperatures. Meanwhile, East Coast regions have been under a dry weather advisory for a few days now, and especially those in the east of Gangwon-do have seen a dry advisory for more than 2 weeks. Be careful with any activities that may cause a wildfire this season. Afternoon highs are 1 to 3 degrees higher in most places. Sunnier skies will be joined by more clouds as the day goes on, and we can expect decent air quality in most parts of the country today. Nationwide rain is in the forecast across Korea on Wednesday, but that band of rain will not bring down the temperatures. In fact, we will stay way above the season norms this week. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
Three decades from now, South Korea could see nearly half of its population be old. To put that into perspective, BTS member V and Twice's Nayeon, who were both born in 1995, will become 65 years old in 2060. And by the time 44% of the entire population will be at or over the threshold age of being old. A country is already defined super age when that ratio hits 20%, and South Korea is on course to become so by 2025. Of course, this is the worst case scenario, which should be prevented by tackling the low birth rate. But at the same time, the country will need to reform its structure to minimize the impact stemming from scarce labor and strains on his care system. That is all for today. Thanks for watching.